All right, so to finish this off, I'm going to go ahead and UV the sword, different pieces of the sword. You don't have to do that to texture this because the textures are very simple on here. But if you did want to have like some runes running down the sword here, you would want to have it UV'd or maybe running across the crossguard or have some sort of information on the grip, some sort of detail on the grip that isn't there, like leather strapping or even like runes or whatever. You could go ahead and add that on if you UV these various pieces. It's going to be pretty easy to UV this too. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the blade and I'm just going to go up here to UV editor. It's on my shelf. It's right here. I'm going to turn off my checker pattern right here at the top. And then I'm going to come over here to create and just do camera based. If camera based does not work for whatever reason, just go to normal based. You can do an auto UV if you're not one of my students. I don't allow you to use automatic UVing if you're one of my students because you have to learn how to UV. It's going to be important for you in the future in case UVing doesn't ever work. Because sometimes the tools get broken for some reason. There's a glitch. They release a new version when tool doesn't work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, go edge, and I'm going to double click the edge that is along the very edge of the blade, right? If you can't see it in your UV editor, just go to your 3D view and then double click it. That selects it all the way along. If it doesn't select it all the way along, make sure you get all of the edge selected all the way along your blade. And then I'm going to come over here to this side. I'm going to click on cut and sew to open the tab, and then I'm going to click on cut. And then I'm going to right click over here and go UV shell. Marquee select over both of the shells and then click on unfold over here on the right, and then click on unfold. They are now UV'd. I'm done. I don't have to do any more with this. I'm going to do a little bit more. I'm just going to go to edge here. I'm going to click here on this edge along the edge of the blade, and I'm going to shift click here, and then I'm going to click on stitch together underneath my cut and sew tab, and then I'm going to right click, go UV shell, click on it, and then unfold it again because it will slightly shift when I change the UV shell. Go to object mode, click on the cross guard, press F if you don't see it. You don't need to see it, but if you want to see it, then press F. Go to create, click on camera based. There you go. You're going to unfold. I'm going to double click one of the corner edges here, so the corner along the length. We'll do along the edges. Let me minimize this. I'm going to get these right here. Shift double click, shift double click, shift double click. Remember now what I'm trying to do when I'm UVing, shift double click, shift double click, shift double click, is I'm trying to get this so that it will fold out completely flat. It's a three-dimensional object. I want to cut it where I need to cut it so that it will lay out completely flat with no overlapping pieces. I'm going to bring back my UV editor, press F, there it is. I'm going to cut, UV shell, click on it, unfold. There you go. That's it. We're done. We could do more if we wanted to, but we don't need to. Click here, object mode, bring this UV editor back up. There it is, create, camera based. Go to edge, double click one of the vertical edges along here. Doesn't matter which one. I'm going to cut it. I'm going to right click on it, go UV shell, click on it, and unfold. Very easy. We're done. Object mode, click on this one here. This one's going to be a little bit more complicated. Create, camera based, UV shell. I'm going to double click that edge along there. I'm going to double click one of the vertical edges. I don't need the parts in the center, so it'll look like this right here. I need that. I don't need these. Holding control, I can deselect those. I'm going to cut out one side, and I'm going to hold shift and cut out the other side. And I'm going to cut UV shell. There's 3 UV shells here. Unfold them all. Unfold. Edge. Click on this edge here. Stitch together. That's just the edge on one of the sides of the corner of the sides of the circle part right here. I'm going to stitch that together too. I just do that so I know where these things go, which one's which. In this case, it's not a big deal because I'm only going to have 2 of these, and I know they both go to the pommel of the sword. But if I had a bunch of rounded pieces and I was like, okay, which one is which? I want to be able to keep track of that better. Now you're going to have rounding on this. You have this little rounding right here. If you were to put some sort of cool texture in here, it would be rounded. If we look here, let me go to object mode here. We'll select all of these. You can see, look at this. This is what I'm talking about, this stretching here. Now to fix that, we're going to take a pause from UV editor for a moment here. To fix that, with all these objects selected, I'm going to come over to my attribute editor right here. If you don't see it, you can press Control A. Control A. And you want to go to Smooth Mesh. And you want to go to Open Subdiv Control, is it? Yeah, Open Subdiv Control. Maya Catmull Clark. Click on the drop down here and click Preserve Corners and Edges. That did not fix that. Got to do it for all of them. Preserve corners and edges. See, there you go. Look at that. That's what you want. Otherwise, it's going to stretch through the texture is going to stretch. And we'll do the same thing here. Preserve corners and edges. And we'll do it here too, just to be sure. There we go. We got all those preserved now. And now we want to go ahead and range and lay out these guys in my UV editor. We're going to make sure we have everything selected, all of our pieces. We need to have all the pieces of the model selected in here. Then we're going to right click. Come on, my mouse doesn't work that well, remember. UV shell. Click and drag over all these. I'm going to buy a new mouse today, I've decided. And then I want to come down to the bottom on the right hand side in my UV toolkit here. There's UV toolkit. Go down to the bottom, go to arrange and layout. Click on that, open it up. Roll down to layout. Now everything is placed in the 0 to 1 space. Everything, it needs to be placed in the 0 to 1 space for it to work right. And I don't know that it's going to be that good though. Let me check my textile density, making sure that the squares are all about the same size on the various pieces. They do look like they're different, but not that much. I'm going to take my sword. I'm actually going to rotate it in. Typically you want to work square if you can, because if you work square, then it's easier to put like writing on here. But I'm not worried about it for this. I'm not even going to put any writing on this. I'm going to go ahead and scale with all the shells selected, and then I'll just grab this one here. So take up as much of the 0 to 1 space as you possibly can, because that will allow you to make your textures bigger. And then I'll just move these into space here. They can just be sitting there. It doesn't really matter. And then there you go. We got the textures all UV, or the model all UV'd. Let's go ahead and texture this really quickly. It's going to be pretty straightforward to texture this, because this, and this, selecting all three of those pieces, we can right click on them. There you go. Assign favorite material, standard surface, and then I'm going to come over here to metalness and just turn that up. It's shiny metal now. That was easy. We're done there. We did that one. Now this one right here, I'm going to right click on it, assign favorite material, standard surface. I'm going to make the color black. Yay. We made the sword. If we light this and render it, it's not really going to show. If you come up here to Arnold, lights, area light, just put an area light on here. I'll rotate it so it's got better. Come on now. There we go. So put that there like that. And then let's go ahead and render this. So I'll go to, let's save it first, file. Increment and save. I want to make sure I save it before I render, because sometimes renders will crash your system. So let's go to Arnold, open Arnold render view, and press play. Oh, I got to turn on my light. Turn that up to 5. There you go. There you can see the model is showing. It's not showing that well. If you go to 8, it's not going to show very well here. It's just going to show very basic, because there's nothing for it to reflect, the metal to reflect off of. So if you wanted to, what you could do is go to Arnold, lights, physical sky. Yeah, we want physical sky, I believe. And then we can render it again. Arnold, open Arnold render view. That might work a little bit better. Yeah, so you can kind of see it looks a little bit more metallic now. But there's not much to it, even if we zoom in on it. This is not really going to look very metallic. This looks plastic, so to fix that, I'm going to delete its history. So with that selected, you can select it right here. That's where I selected it. I just clicked on it. Just click on my delete history. If you can't find it, it's Shift-Alt-D, I believe, is the hotkey. It's underneath Edit, Delete by Type. I go to my standard surface here in the tab over here in my attribute editor. Again, if you don't have your attribute editor open, click Control-A. That'll open it up. I want to change my roughness here on that and make it less shiny that way. I can turn this down a little bit so that the color's not white but gray. That might be a little bit better. I can turn down the weight too if I don't like it, if it's too shiny or whatever. You could put in a sphere and then color the sphere different colors, and it'll reflect. It'll look better. It'll look more metallic and realistic that way. We'll turn this all the way up, and we'll turn the roughness down a little bit. Trying to sharpen that up a bit. Pardon my sinuses. I just have trouble with my sinuses all the time. I had surgery recently on it to try to fix it, but we'll see if that helps at all. All right, so that's pretty much it for the coloration. You could do a lot more elaborate coloring if you went into, say, your Substance Painter, if you know how to use that. Anyway, I'm going to call this good for right now. That was just a quick kind of how to set up and color your sword scene. Obviously, you saw this did not render the image plane, which is good. We didn't want that to render anyway. Image planes don't render, but you can put an image in here and render it if you wanted to. But yeah, there you go. There's your sword, ready to go, looking pretty awesome. Pretty basic standard sword. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.